going to crochet with Potter and Bloom.
Hello, today's tutorial is showing you how to make this super fabulous and really easy colour block cowl. I have got two different sizes. This is the first one that I made and this just wraps around your neck the once. It's super chunky yarn, but it came up really small, so that's a single loop. And then this version, the version that I'm going to make with you today, wraps round twice, and it uses 3 different colours and a really simple crochet stitch. It's kind of like a sedge stitch, and if you can see the texture there, it creates this fabulous fabric which looks really difficult but actually is really easy. So it's a really good project for beginners. I am today going to make a single colour version. You need to get yourself some super chunky yarn, the kind of yarn that uses a 12mm hook. You can use any super chunky yarn that you want. You can make yours colour blocked, you can make it striped, or you can make it one colour. The version that I'm going to make with you today, I'm just going to use this really nice teal colour to make it, and I'm going to use a 12mm hook. So grab your yarn, grab your hook, and we'll begin. So we're going to start with a slip knot on our super chunky hook, and we are going to chain 21. Okay, so once we have chained 21, we're going to start with the pattern, and because I'm British, I use UK crochet terminology, which is different to US crochet terminology. And so as I'm speaking the stitches that I'm using, I will put up on screen the US conversion so that you can follow along. And let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to work 2 trebles into this 3rd chain from the hook. Okay, then we're going to miss 2 chains, and in the next chain we're going to work 1 double crochet and 2 trebles. Okay, so it should look like that. And we are going to do that all the way across the row. So miss 2, and in the next work 1 double and 2 trebles. These chunky great big hooks are great to learn on because you can see exactly where your stitches are going, but when you're not used to using a big chunky hook, it's quite difficult to get a handle on what's going on. You have to just sort of give it a little tug to see where you're going. And the reason that this is such a great pattern for beginners is it's only 21 stitches across, which is really lovely. Only 21 stitches across and a repetitive pattern. It's exactly the same on every row, which makes me very happy. Okay, so when you get to your last 3 stitches, you're going to skip 2, and in that last stitch you're going to work 1 double crochet to finish your first row, and you should have something that looks like that. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn, and we're going to start off by working 2 trebles into this first stitch, the double crochet that you ended the first row on. So you work 2 trebles into there, and then you skip 2 trebles, and in the next double you work 1 double crochet and 2 trebles. Okay, so it should look something like that. I'm just stretching it apart so you can see where all the stitches are going. And then you do that all the way across, skip 2 trebles, and in the double work 1 double crochet and 2 trebles. Skip 2 trebles, oop, 1 double crochet and 2 trebles. Skip 2 trebles, 1 double crochet and 2 trebles. Skip 2 trebles, 1 double crochet and 2 trebles. Okay, so when we get to the end of the row, you should have something like that. And you've got those first 2 trebles here from your first row. And what we're going to do is we're going to work 1 double crochet underneath this turning chain, which was the first 2 stitches skipped. So in the first row we worked those 2 trebles into the 3rd chain from the hook. We work underneath those 2 chains that we skipped, and we chain 1 and we turn. And basically we do that for every single row. That is the pattern. So we start off with 2 trebles into that first double, so that's how you begin your row, and then you skip 2 trebles and you work 1 double crochet, 2 trebles into the double. If you're not sure where that stitch is going, if you just turn your work and you can see the stitches from the top, and you can see that these are the 2 trebles. If you look, 2 trebles, and then this one here is the double where my finger's poking through. So you work 1 double crochet and 2 trebles into that space. So if you're ever stuck, just turn your work and look from the top. Skip 2 trebles, 1 double crochet and 2 trebles, skip 2 trebles, 1 double crochet, 2 trebles. Now tension doesn't really matter with this project because it is it's a cowl, so it works out at approximately 20 to 25 centimeters width, depending on the yarn that you're using, but don't worry about that too much. And in terms of length, if you like your cowl to only go round your neck once, then you can just keep working until your work measures about 80 centimeters. 80 centimeters is a good length for a single loop cowl, so that's what your work should look like. Now we're at the end again, and we've got the 2 trebles, and what you need to do is work your final double crochet in that beginning, underneath that beginning chain 1. And the way that you can find that is if you look at your 2 trebles from the top, you can see their stitches, and this is the chain 1 off to the side. So you just work your final double crochet underneath there, and that's what you should have. So you just keep working. I will just keep chatting for a second while I'm working. Yeah, so the first Callie Cowl that I made short, and it's 80 centimeters, approximately 80 centimeters, and it only goes round once, which I'm not that keen on. I like my cowl to go round twice, so I made my second one, the colour blocked one that I showed you at the beginning of this video, and that is approximately 170 centimeters long, so just over double. And what that gives you is enough space to wrap it round your neck twice, and I think that just makes it a bit warmer, a bit easier to wear, and yeah, it looks quite fabulous as well, I think. I also think that this stitch is pretty enough. If you really wanted to, you could just keep going and make it into a scarf. You don't necessarily need to sew the loop up at the end to turn it into a cowl if you don't want to. And we're at the end of the row again, and so we work 1 double crochet underneath the turning chain. Chain 1, turn. So you get the idea. It's quite textured and bobbly. It looks really nice. Yeah, so you can keep working it. You can turn it into a scarf. Alternatively, you do not need to use super chunky yarn. You can use any kind of yarn with this project. But obviously, if you're using a much finer yarn, for instance, a double knit yarn, DK or Aran weight, just be aware of the fact that you will probably need to start with more than 21 chains, because otherwise it's not going to be very wide. And the written pattern in both UK and US terminology for this cowl are on my website, which is linked in the notes below, and I give details in there of how you would do that. But essentially, you just keep going. It's such a nice pattern because it just flows off the hook and it works up really quickly. So when you get to, let me just show you how big this piece is. I am at the end of my first 100 gram ball of yarn. And when you get to the end, let me show you what you do. It's really simple. You either change colour at the end if you want to create something that's colour blocked like this. I just changed colour at every at the end of every ball, or you just keep going in the same colour, which is what I'm going to do for this teal version. Oh, my yarn's knotting up. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row and I only have this piddly amount of yarn left. So I work my last double crochet, I put my hook through and bring my yarn up, and instead of wrapping round and finishing off the double crochet with my working yarn, I'm going to introduce a new ball of yarn and wrap through with that. So now the new ball of yarn is my working yarn. I chain one, I turn, oh, just need to pull those up a bit tight, maybe even tie them in a little knot. And then carry on. Carry on in pattern. Okay, so I've only got that much yarn left, so I think we're at the end. I have used 3 100-gram balls, and I have got quite a lot of smushy, gorgeous crochet. So I'm going to work the last row as per all the previous rows. And then the last stitch. And that is, let me just get that knot out of my yarn. And that is you finished. So that's 3 100-gram balls of super chunky yarn, and you get one long piece. And all you do is you join your two ends together using a fairly large yarn needle. Just thread your needle and match up the stitches. And I like to do a mattress stitch when I'm sewing up stitches in this way, because I think that it doesn't show as much. But you just match your stitches, get the two from the bottom and the two from the top, and you just go from the, oh, did that go over to the side? You just go from the bottom to the top. Stitches will be slightly different because you're sewing to the beginning 21 chain, so you'll have to sew into some chains that weren't worked, but it's pretty easy to make it look pretty awesome. And that is your finished cowl. I think that's pretty impressive for a beginner crochet project. I hope that was useful, and I hope that you make one. I will put all of the details for the written pattern in the box below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye. Let me know in the comments below. See you on the next